1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. 1, 2, 1, 2. I will talk a little bit louder than this when the time comes, of course, but 1, 2, 1, 2. Will you be able to hear my commentary in your headset? Is that, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking.
It's okay?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Wow, I should have taken a toilet break while I was over there. Oh, well. Creeping towards the halfway post in the 2025 NPLW Victoria season. The day is growing a little shorter and the evenings chillier. Winter is fast approaching, and so too the dog days of the long and up. So Preston make two changes from the side that had to come from 2 goals down to force a draw with the Football Victoria Academy side last week. Ali Lamont and Eri Narita go back to the bench, where they are replaced by Ali Vlamink and Elena Vatki. Mia Power goes out of the squad entirely. Sophie Dean will start in goal for Preston tonight. A back four of Eva Harrington, Emma Checker, Lani Jadicha and Mizuho Yamada. The two holding midfielders ahead of them will be El Talevski and Eliza Amendolia. Georgia Henderson, the captain, will start ahead of those two. The returning Elena Vatki and Ellie Vlamik start on the wings. Valentine Percy, the co-leader in the Golden Boot race, leads the line for Preston tonight. 3 changes from the South Melbourne side that had that irritating draw at home against Spring Hills last week. Bridie Cooling, Isabella Sewards and goalkeeper Ayana Iyagi go out. They are replaced by Annabelle Haffenden, Raquel Doralis and Christina Esposito, who is in goal with a back four ahead of her of captain Francesca Iamano, Alana Byrne, Annabelle Haffenden and Akisha Santu. The two holding midfielders ahead of that back four will be Misha Westland and Olivia Bomford. Tiffany Aliadis will play in the middle of the park, flanked by Nikki Furukawa and Mami Ambo, who needs no introduction to Preston Lions fans, and Raquel Doralis, who come off the bench and missed a penalty last week for South Melbourne, leads the line for the ladies in Lakeside Blue tonight. So Preston in the red, iconic red shirts and socks and the black shorts, and South Melbourne in that just as iconic and familiar Lakeside blue. Preston will kick us off from right to left. And Preston keen to be the first team to defeat South Melbourne this season. South come into match day 8, 2 points clear on top of the table. The only team yet to be beaten in the NPLW Victoria in 2025. Preston have only just been going after that wonderful 2024 season that saw them reach the cup final here in Victoria and the league final. And so 21 years to the day after these two teams' women's sides first met one another, they meet again for the first time this season. Away we go then. Your official out in the middle is Shab Saban. Working the lines will be Daphne Ganaris and Lauren White, and down below us the fourth official is Angelique Katsalis. Preston would have been dissatisfied in the end with that 2-2 draw against the FV Academy side. The struggling Football Victoria Academy side who had a 2-goal lead at home. Preston showing a lot of resilience and character to fight their way out of that particular hole. And in the end, their goalkeeper, Sophie Dean, right at the end of second half stoppage time, had to pull off a miraculous save just to preserve that point. And South Melbourne in a 1-1 draw at home to Spring Hills, the newbies Spring Hills, who are also in action tonight at this contest here at Jenna Steele Stadium, one of 3 clashes this evening. What are we going to get from these two teams tonight, I wonder? Potentially goals. Both of these teams have only held 1 clean sheet each so far, and we have 2 of the top goal scorers in the league, one on either side. This is one of them, Nikki Furukawa, who starts on the right wing for South Melbourne. She's going past Eva Harrington. A dangerous ball into the 18-yard box. that is turned goalward bound by Mami Ambo and then eventually clawed away somehow by Sophie Dean. And an early moment of promise for the travelling side. Throwing on the far side, Akeisha Sandhu to take it for South Melbourne. This is Preston's second home game of the season. As Georgia Henderson clears that one away. They were here a couple of weeks ago. And they were in a ding-dong battle with Bentley, a match that Preston ended up winning 4-3. Had such a great record at home last season, did Preston. 11 games, obviously 7 wins. That's just in the regular season, not including finals. Percy. Here is Elena Vatke wearing the face mask on the facial injury that she suffered earlier in the season. Here is Valentine Percy, the English woman, drawn to a wide position, slips a pass in behind, and it's just beyond the reach of Ali Vlamink. And a couple of nice openings for either side in the early minutes here at Jenna Steele Stadium. Preston in that match last week against the FV Academy side. 18 shots on goal they had, Preston, to FV's 14. 8 on target to 7. Played away by Olivia Bomford. Brought down by Eliza Amendolia. And then from deep, a shot that's only just gone wide. Coming from, I think that was the fullback. It was Mizuho Yamada. And a wonderful opportunity for Preston goes by the wayside. Looks like Yamada has lined up in midfield. Has been playing early on this season at left back. Eva Harrington, who is normally at right back, has gone out to play at left back for the Lionesses this evening. Vatke in a good duel with Iamano, who's happy enough to play it out of touch. So it looks like they've just shuffled things around a little bit with their starting 11 this evening, Preston. Alani Jadicha has moved from her centre-back position out to right-back. Harrington over to the left and Yamada up into midfield. Oh, just beyond the outstretched leg there of Vlamink. Harrington and Furukawa collide. Amendolia lofting it over the top. Percy. Just getting their second running. It's well claimed by Christina Esposito. South Melbourne look like they are as advertised. No nonsense clearance there from Altalevski. In her second season now at Preston. Come off the bench in the, started in the grand final, I should say. She's a 3-time cup winner at Calder United. Come off the bench in that 2022 grand final that Calder won, beating Bulleen. Percy been involved in everything early on. Nice touch there from Vlamik, who really should open the scoring for Preston, and she does. And for the first time since match day 1, South Melbourne are behind. Ali Vlamik back into the starting 11, and it's the perfect possible start in the Lions' Den for the home side. Ali Vlamik, just her third start of the season. The last time she was in the starting 11 was match day 4 against Essendon. She scored on that particular afternoon as well. So that is obviously her second goal of the season. And Preston, in the early minutes here at Jenna Steele Stadium, have the lead. Preston 1, South Melbourne 0. South Melbourne, who up until tonight had only been behind for 43 minutes this season. All of those minutes, as I mentioned, on match day 1 against Bentley. Bentley scored after just 3 minutes that particular evening. That was the opening match of the season, the first, the Friday night of round 1. It was Olivia Bomford who came up with an equaliser for South Melbourne on the brink of half-time. Free kick just down below us here for Talevski. Flicked on by Henderson. Percy has to turn away. This is Ellie Vlamink again. And her would-be cross ricochets off the back of Akeisha Sandhu. And Preston tighten the screws. The opening corner kick going the way of Dan Foden's side. It's the first goal that Preston have scored this season in the opening quarter hour. And a chance to potentially find some insurance here. It's going to be a right-footed outswinger from Amendolia. Puts it right into the mix. Cleared away by South Melbourne. Flagged down by Emma Checker. Swings it into the back post. It'll sit here for Georgia Henderson, who lashes the shot wide. And a corner kick for South Melbourne. Ellie Vlamink, 22-year-old, second season at Preston, come over from the Football Victoria emerging program via Strathdale Soccer Club, won back-to-back league best and fairest in the BASL before joining FV Emerging in the under-17s. Furukawa now, he's going to run at Emma Checker. Sophie Dean backpedaling for Furukawa. Will she strike from distance? She does. And can't get it past Sophie Dean, who just lost the ball for a moment and then refound it between her knees. Well, they are a team that can spring forward and score quickly. South Melbourne, so many of their goals this season have transpired just like that. Here's Ellie Vlamink again out there on the right wing for Preston. Already Akeisha Sandhu has a battle on her hands. And, well, she did concede possession, but our referee Shab Saban has seen a foul in the build-up play there. South Melbourne coming into the clash tonight on top of the table, as I mentioned. 5 wins from their 7 matches. They are 1 point clear on top of the table. I think I might have said 2 in the preamble. 1 point clear of Alamein and Heidelberg United. South on top with 17 points. Alamein in second and Heidelberg United in third with 16 points respectively. 2 teams that have made it to the grand final the past 2 years. Obviously Preston in 2024. And South Melbourne the year before in 2023. They won that particular grand final, South, from third position on the table. Alana Burns, long diagonal, beaten by the bounce is Harrington. And here is the dangerous Furukawa, goes right past Eve Harrington. The cutback was looking for Duralis. And they're defending grimly was Talevski. Once again, you see that threat of South Melbourne. Turn the ball over in midfield, one long diagonal. You want to hope that your defensive shape is sound or you will be sorry. Henderson for Percy. Good industrious play there by Georgia Henderson, who tonight is starting her 51st consecutive match for the Lions. She has started every match in the league for Preston since they gained promotion into the NPLW Victoria in 2022. Another turnover in midfield. Amendolia, beautiful turn away to get out of strife. Vlamink into Georgia Henderson, who we know can strike from distance. Decides against it on that occasion. Vital interjection there from Alana Byrne. Great work from Georgia Henderson in midfield. Out for Elena Vatke. Into the 18-yard box. Oh, and ghosting in Was Amendolia, I think that was, who may have just got it a little late. The boot up into the midriff of Esposito, and our first yellow card of the evening goes the way of the Preston midfielder, Eliza Amendolia. And there's a little bit of concern for Esposito. She certainly felt that one, but she's back up on her feet. Eliza Amendolia started every match now this season for Preston. It's her first season here. Was playing football for the University of Hawaii in the collegiate system last year. Of course, has played in the A-League Women's, 15 appearances for the Western Sydney Wanderers in 2016 and 2017. Haffenden. Here's Olivia Bomford now. Furukawa's dispossessed by Harrington. Percy with her back to goal. Looking to slide it through. Flaming's there again. Round the goalkeeper. And Ellie Flaming flashes it right across the goal mouth. And was a whisker away from having a double inside 13 minutes. South Melbourne on tenterhooks defensively. Beautifully timed pass in behind by Valentine Percy. 7 goals this season, 6 of them in the league for Percy. Almost becoming an assistee there. South Melbourne can consider themselves very lucky they are not down 2-0 already. NPLW Victoria match of the day for round 8. Beautiful from Furukawa to wriggle away from Harrington. And she's still going for Furukawa. Passing board for Doralis, overwhelmed by the Preston shirts. No foul going the way of Olivia Bomford. Henderson comes away with the ball. Show too much of it to Alana Byrne. Aliadis. Byrne with another early release. All the way back to Sophie Dean. Preston this season, 3 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses. That 1-1 draw with Spring Hills on match day 1. Followed up by a 2-0 loss to Alamein on match day 2. They then won 3 of their next 4 before that draw with FVA, not FVE anymore, FVA last week. Those 3 wins coming over Bulleen, Essendon and Bentley. South Melbourne, as I mentioned, 5 wins and 2 draws. They did have that draw on match day 1 against Bentley, a 1-1 draw, and then the 1-1 draw last week with Spring Hills. 5 consecutive wins in between those 2 bookend draws. Wins over FV Academy, Alamein, Heidelberg United, Brunswick Juventus and Box Hill. So through the opening quarter hour here at Jenna Steele Stadium, we're our match of the round in the NPLW this week. Good start for the home team. If you joined us in the last 5 minutes or so, you've missed quite a bit. Both teams have had a couple of good looks at goal. The goal scorer for Preston is Ellie Flaming, who returns to the starting 11 tonight. She's very unlucky not to have a brace. Lani Jadicha racing in from her right back position. Would do well to retreat here. Henderson. Flaming trying to flick it on. Nobody in a red shirt willing to give chase. I did mention that it's 21 years to the day since these two first met one another in the women's competition. Sunday, May the 9th, 2004. It was match day 5 of that season here at BT Connor Reserve. South Melbourne getting away with a 3-2 win that afternoon as Iamano's going on a run. Henderson again, she's really trying to put the South Melbourne back four under pressure with those early releases. The goal scorers for South Melbourne on that afternoon, Rosie Beretta, Nikki Cook and Alicia Tacasso. And for Preston, Peter Lepech and Ashley McMillan. South won the return match later on that season, match day 14, 8-0 back at Lakeside. South ultimately finished 5th on the table that season. Preston relegated. Iamano, South captain, Furukawa. Wonderful addition to South this season, Nikki Furukawa. She is Canadian, 30-year-old. Will turn 31 at the end of this month. Joined from Waterside Karori in New Zealand, where she was the top goal scorer for Waterside and helped earn them promotion into the top division, the Premier League in New Zealand. And has hit the ground running here in Australia, in Victoria. Oh, a couple of South players just getting tangled up there. Ping pong in midfield, back with Misha Westland. And all the way back to Christina Esposito. Returned last season, Esposito, the South goalkeeper, from a serious knee injury. And here she is playing the ball out for, looking for Furukawa. Good anticipation there from Harrington. And eventually the blue shirts will win out. Esposito joined South 4 years ago from Belconnen United. It's a team that plays in the NPL Capital League in Canberra, obviously. Both of these teams have flip-flopped between their two goalkeepers. South's reserve goalkeeper, Ayana Iyagi, started a couple of matches. Esposito back between the sticks tonight. And Preston going in between Sophie Dean and Maggie Byrne. Checker. Chidicha. Speaking of players returning from serious knee injuries, an element of risk from that pass into Talevski. Percy couldn't make contact, but here comes Elena Vatke, who looked to try and hit it first time and just sliced her shot behind harmlessly for a goal kick. And Preston too, proving threatening on their forward thrusts, particularly with those long balls. You can see they're trying to use Valentine Percy as that typical number 9. Speaking of, they've turned it over here, Preston. Percy trying to play with their back to goal and use those runners coming in behind. We've already seen Ellie Vlamic doing that very effectively. Boxed in here, South Melbourne. Oh, that's an interesting pass from Alana Byrne, I think that was, to put Esposito under all sorts of pressure. Good composure by the 26-year-old South goalkeeper. South Melbourne build from just about the last line of defence. It's been an uncomfortable opening 20 minutes here in Preston for South. Iamano is going to have to retreat all the way back to Annabelle Haffenden and further still to Esposito. A couple of other games going on in the NPLW Victoria. We might get to those in just a moment. Flamix got another battle here on her hands. Picked up by Yamada. Her cross is deflected. And it trickles all the way out and behind for another corner kick for Preston. The other matches this evening, Box Hill United have a 5-0 lead over Brunswick Juventus into the second half of that particular match. That one kicked off about an hour or so before us here at Jenna Steele Stadium. Still 0-0 between Spring Hills and Heidelberg United. That was a simultaneous kick-off. Here comes another right-footed outswinger from Amendola. Puts it right into the mix. It doesn't get past Annabelle Haffenden. Henderson trying to use the shirts that were still in the box, but they had vacated the area. Spring Hills at home in that game to Heidelberg United out in Caroline Springs at Springside. Good result for the Stallions last week, going to Lakeside and taking a point off South Melbourne. Here's Mami Ambo, Bomford and Eliadis, Haffenden. Annabelle Haffenden's second start of the season. The other one came in on match day 1 against Bentley. Mami Ambo angling her pass infield. I think it was designed for Bomford, but it's picked up by Doralis. Westland, Ambo. South Melbourne build promisingly. Eliadis, was she brought down? Indeed she was, by the lunging Elena Vatke. And a set piece from which to build from here for South Melbourne. Well, they've scored a lot of goals from long range this season, South. They haven't scored any from direct free kicks like this. They have scored 5 times from corners. This is Misha Westland who stands over this one for South Melbourne. It's been a sluggish start for South. Westland, Bomford it was rather, fires it right at Sophie Dean, and it doesn't trouble the Preston goalkeeper. Olivia Bomford, who come over to South from Bentley in the off-season. 5 assists this season for Olivia, number 1 in the league. Here she is on the ball now. It was a good turnover initially from South Melbourne until Elena Vatke just puts it out into the bushes. "24 minutes gone at Jenna Steele Stadium. Preston 1, South Melbourne 0. South Melbourne in an unfamiliar position to them this season. Behind for the first time since match day 1. This is match day 8. They've been front runners through the early parts of the season. Have Matthew Shepherd's troops. It's back out of play below us. Matthew Shepherd, his first season as coach. Coached in the ranks at Melbourne Victory and coaching experience in Canada as well. Yamano, Talevski lunging. Nice touch from Furukawa. Now she's got Harrington to deal with, and she beats her. Did the red shirts toll here? No, Furukawa outstanding. Eventually Emma Checker had seen enough. Clears it up to midfield. Valentine Percy now battling against a couple of the blue shirts. She does well to win Preston, a throw-in on halfway to the delight of Dan Foden and his coaching assistants down there. Dan Foden's 7th season as manager for Preston. He was on the sideline, not on the touchline, but on the sidelines match day 1 and 2. He was sent off in the grand final last year, so he had to serve a match day ban, wasn't able to be on the touchline. Back into the fray now. And as I was mentioning in the early minutes, it hasn't quite been the start to the season for Preston that they would have liked. They made such great strides last year, finishing second on the table, playing in both the Cup final and the Grand Final, and losing both of them in heartbreaking fashion. It's Furukawa involved in the build-up again. Eliadis. Well, I'm not entirely sure what our stats people will do with that one, if they put that down as a shot or a potential attempted pass. But the end result is the same. Goal kick for Preston. Yeah, Preston beaten in the cup final last year to Bulleen. As they have a nervy moment defensively here. What's Emma Checker's plan? Played up the field for Elena Vatke. Good idea. Oh, Vatke's pass is loose and Iamano slips through and plays the ball into the 18-yard box. There's too much on it for Doralis. And Mami Ambo was there at the back post, but Preston said to the relative safety of the far touchline. And that's what they'll be trying to avoid, Preston, just those moments of indecision defensively. As I've mentioned a couple of times, as South Melbourne win a free kick, South can punish you quickly and devastatingly if you let your guard down for just one moment, and they've punished many teams already this season. Iamano, Doralis. He's got the better of Talevski, at least initially. Eliadis loses out to Amendolia. Vlamink. Her goal separates these two so far tonight. A goal after just 6 minutes. Preston's earliest goal of the season thus far for Furukawa. Despite South Melbourne trailing, she's probably just about been best on the pitch so far. Terrific stuff. Here's Bomford. And she's stood up and eventually seeing the ball taken away from her by Talevski. Amendolia is trying to slip in Valentine Percy. The Preston folk down below us weren't happy with the challenge on Elena Vatke a moment ago. No whistle. Vlamink. Was Vlamink fouled? No. In fact, yes. Our official in the middle, Shab Saban, says that one was worth a halt in play. Free kick for Preston. South Melbourne have conceded a couple of goals already this season in positions like this. Free kicks in or near halfway. And that was how they conceded the goal last week to Spring Hills, a long ball forward that they weren't able to deal with. Can Preston put South Melbourne well and truly on the ropes here? Percy at the near post, Henderson there as well. Percy got decent purchase on the header. And we're going to have a halt to play as Percy's a little bit slow to pick herself up. Maybe some head contact as well in there with one of the South defenders. 25-year-old striker from Lewes in England. Also played previously for Brighton and Hove Albion before going over to the US, where she was playing at Indiana University. Has proven a very handy acquisition up front for Preston. Doralis and Henderson clatter into one another. Sandhu. Haffenden doesn't do much with that ball. Still up for grabs in midfield, and eventually Sandhu maintains possession. But again, sloppy in midfield from South. And Mendolia can't come up with it. Doralis. The diminutively built Raquel Doralis, but incredibly dangerous footballer. Speaking of, here's Nikki Furukawa. Two players come over to try and extinguish the threat. Into the near post. Away by Talevski, and then further afield by Vatke. The throw in adjacent to the 18-yard box for South Melbourne, who are poking and prodding. Trying to set course for an equalising goal. Westland. Iamano, I don't think, was expecting that pass. In a very tight circle there, South Melbourne. Vatke races away in possession. Percy bending it in behind for Vlaming, who's now appeared on this left wing. Shoulder to shoulder with Alana Byrne, and then back for Esposito. I mentioned Preston's great form at home earlier on this evening. They scored 33 goals at home last season. Only Bulleen scored more. Duralis, Iamano in a very advanced position for a right back. They've actually got Furukawa manning that spot just at the moment. Bomford got Ambo screaming for it out on the left wing. Looking to fiddle the ball in there for Duralis, but just couldn't quite work the angle. They've kept Mummy Ambo pretty quiet through the first half an hour and a bit here, have Preston, and you can understand why. And for those that aren't aware, I'm sure you are aware by now, Mummy was the one who scored that incredible stoppage time winning goal for Heidelberg United last season. It was effectively the last play of the season to win the championship for Heidelberg United. Break Preston hearts at the death as she left the village for Lakeside Stadium in the off-season. Good high pressing again from the Lionesses. Vatke, Amendolia stood on the ball but maintains possession. Awkward one for Alana Byrne. She did really well. Interception there from Yamada. Percy. And they bring it to ground, and Byrne just wants to see it out of the area. She turns defence into attack somewhat with the long ball. Duralis shoulder to shoulder with Talevski. And Emma Checker chipping that one out of play. Former Matilda, of course, Emma Checker announced her retirement last year from professional football. And what a wonderful opportunity for the Preston women and the young girls coming through this club to train with a player like Emma Checker and then obviously play with her on match days. Yamano. Ambo just couldn't quite get that one under her spell. And here come Preston again down the right-hand channel. Vlamink has gotten past Akisha Sandhu. Doesn't have a whole lot of support, Vlamink, because she was looking for Percy, who might have been offside. We play on. Amendola fires at goal and whizzes it across the goal mouth. South Melbourne would have been furious if they had conceded a goal there. They thought that Valentine Percy had a legitimate role in that build-up play. She did touch the football. In the end, all's well that ends well, I suppose, for South Melbourne as Amendolia blazes her shot wide. Got some scoring prowess on the bench as well. Do Preston, Ali Lamont and Iri Narita, who were both in the starting 11 last week. They warmed the bench for Dan Foden's side. Miri Nishimura as well. Summer Kapanekia and Molly May Ramsey. The reserve goalkeeper Maggie Byrne. On the bench for South Melbourne, Gia Kapsamalis, the young lady who's been scoring bags of goals in the under-20s this season. Sophie Papatsanis, Jessica Sheehan, Alana Filipovic, and the defender Bridie Cooling. Goalkeeper Ayana Iyagi. Here's Duralis. Bomford turns away. Yamano. Once again, the high pressing of Preston. The lunging Amendolia almost regaining possession. Eventually it's out off her. And for a throw-in. Where is this South Melbourne goal going to come from? They'd love to be able to find it before they go into the sheds at half-time. That's what they were able to do on match day 1. They were behind after 3 minutes that night out in Cheltenham. Yamano. Oh, Bomford's first touch made things a little awkward. Haffenden. Esposito. South Melbourne have probably shaded the possession in this first half. They come into match day 8 averaging the most time in possession per game this season. That was a beautiful turn from Furukawa. South averaging 62% time in possession per game this season. By far and away, number 1. Preston a tick over 51%. That's good for 4th in a division with 12 teams, of course. Vatke eventually finds her captain in Henderson. Sticha. Into midfield. It was a little bit loose for Yamada. Yamada then does concede possession. Bomford. Westland rather. Can't link up with Doralis. Brilliant, tenacious play once again in midfield by Amendolia, who has come this far. She may as well keep going. Eventually it's taken off her toe by Sandhu. Bomford. Beautiful first touch there from Eliadis. And now Mami Ambo, who's running at Lani Chadicha and going past her. Here's Doralis. Turns. Doesn't shoot from distance. Westland, you can see how compact the pitch has gotten now. And they've got 6 or 7 players, Preston, within about 15 yards of the ball carrier. Bomford. Lofting one for Westland. Talevsky will try and shepherd that one out of play. South Melbourne asking for a corner kick, but our official on the near touchline points instead for a goal kick. These two teams were first together in the top flight of women's football in 2004. As I referenced earlier, before Preston were relegated at the end of that season. They were together again in 2006 in the top division before South Melbourne were relegated. They were then both in the Victorian Premier League Women's for 3 consecutive seasons in 8, 9 and 10 as Doralis looking to dink one in over the top for Furukawa, who had strayed into an offside position. So they played one another for 3 consecutive seasons in 2008, 9 and 10 before Preston were relegated. They were both back together playing one another in 2012 and 2013 in the Premier League before Preston again were relegated. They were both then pitted together in the State League Division 1 in 2016 when we had the National Premier League era begin and everything was reshuffled. Doralis on the outside of the boot. Ambo, does she go for the first time cross? No, she goes with the beautiful dummy. And Mami Ambo fires it across the goal mouth. Promising build-up play again from South Melbourne after causing a turnover in the middle of the pitch. It's twice in a row that Preston have done that. And I think that will go down as a shot from Mami Ambo, the South left winger. At the end of that 2016 season, South Melbourne gained promotion and they've been in the top flight ever since. Of course, Preston toiled away and were not promoted until the end of 2022. They've been together in the NPLW Victoria since the 2023 season. Preston conceding possession again from the goal kick. Iamano and Westland, and a mistake from the South captain. 25-year-old Francesca Iamano. Appearance number 169 from the FB Emerging and Bulleen programs. There's a lot of players that have come through, not just the Football Victoria academy pathway that's undergone a few different monikers down the years, but also Bulleen. And once again, Amendolia looking back at the official, certain that it was a Preston throw-in. Gets her wish. Here is Iamano for Furukawa. Oh, risky back pass. Entrusted a lot of faith in Annabelle Haffenden. Byrne. Sandhu. Inside for Bomford, who's closed down by Henderson. Henderson does the same on Haffenden. Preston back in possession. Percy for Vatke. Henderson makes a run to the far post. It's taken a deflection off the back shoulder of Haffenden. And back into the grateful gloves of Christina Esposito. But that press, that manic pressing from Preston, causing South Melbourne some problems. Aliadis just paving the way for Mia Westland to play it outside for Mami Ambo. The trickery of Mami Ambo into the 18-yard box. And expertly shielded there by Eve Harrington. It did take a touch from Eve Harrington. Our sideline official was pointing for a corner, but she has been overruled by our official in the middle, Shab Saban. And so a goal kick into the final couple of minutes of the first half. An Ali Vlamink goal in the 6th minute for Preston, has them in front. If it was to stay like this at half-time, probably the most important half-time team talk that Matthew Shepherd will have curated in his relatively short stint in charge of the senior team. Preston turn it over again from a kick-in. A goal kick, I should say. Doralis gives it back. Jadicha. And then hoofed away by Talevski. Keisha Sandhu and Ellie Vlamink, what a battle that has been in the first half. The points would probably have to go to Ellie. Bomford an early release. Checker's been as solid as a rock at the back in the opening 45 for Preston. Vatke. Here's Amendolia. Oh, trying to recruit the overlap run of Percy. All the way back with Esposito. Both teams take their shapes again. Jadicha's going to get onto the football here for Preston. They didn't have a lot of players that had gotten forward. Perhaps they will commit some now. Just awaiting how many minutes we're going to have at the end of this first half. We haven't had too many stoppages. We did have the one for the Esposito injury, or what we thought was an injury. We've had the one goal, of course. It'll be just the 1 minute at the end of the first half here. A first half in which South Melbourne have had majority of the possession. They've got themselves in a lot of trouble when trying to play out from the back. Preston look like they're going to take a 1-goal lead into half-time. And the Preston fans that have come here on this chilly Friday evening will be delighted with what they've seen from their girls in the first half. Henderson trying to create something with that pass going forward. Esposito bangs it forward for South. Is there one last opportunity potentially for South Melbourne to get back level pegging? Henderson leaves it behind and trips over Raquel Doralis. Early ball forward from Henderson. Percy is onside. She just about stood on the ball and then she's bowled over by Alana Byrne. Not illegally, according to our referee. Furukawa back for Annabelle Haffenden. And that'll do us for an interesting first half here at Genesis Steel Stadium. And for the first time this season, ladder leaders South Melbourne are behind at half-time. That first half couldn't have gone that much better for Preston, who are desperately looking to try and get a big win here tonight and energise themselves and get going. It's been a bit of an indifferent start to the 2025 campaign, but they lead the table toppers at home here on Friday night football. A goal in the 6th minute for Ali Vlamink. Welcome back to Genesis Steel Stadium, everybody, here in Reservoir for our NPLW Matchday 8 match of the round, where Preston lead table-topping South Melbourne 1-0 at half-time. And despite leading Preston, they have made two changes straight off the bat. They have brought on Ali Lamont and Miri Nishimura, and they have withdrawn Elena Vatke and the goal scorer, Ali Vlamink. South Melbourne have also made a change at half-time. Sophie Papatsanis comes on to play the second 45. She replaces Annabelle Haffenden. And perhaps both managers were maybe not entirely satisfied with what they saw in that first half. It was a first half in which each team after trailing at the break. Brent Sternberg here with you, and Sam, our cameraman, here as well. We were looking at our NPLW thermometer at half-time. 10 degrees it says it is. Nice and chilly as we're approaching winter time here in Melbourne. So what do we see different then from South Melbourne in this second half, I wonder? Looks like they have put Aliadis into the middle of a front three with Doralis out on the wing. The change with Papatsanis and Haffenden, that was a change at the back. So Haffenden was playing in the middle of the back four next to Alana Byrne. Sophie Papatsanis is now alongside Alana Byrne as there's a free kick in midfield for Preston. If Preston go on to win tonight, there is a spot in the top four available for them if they win and then have a couple of other results go their way across the weekend. Amendolia, who was terrific in that first half. Here's Ali Lamont for the first time this evening. Does she play the first time cross? She does. It hits a good spot, and it is controlled by the goalkeeper, not without a moment of jitterbugs. That looked perilously close to going over the goal line. Just recovering in time. Christina Esposito, the South goalkeeper. And Ali Lamont got a little bit lucky, I think, with a cross that went a bit wayward. She happily would have taken the goal. How good was Ali last year in her first season at Preston? 20 goals, 13 of them in the league, was in the team of the season. Preston again threatening to come forward off a turnover. Yamada. Henderson runs into Olivia Bomford, and Bomford trying to scoot away. Iamano and Westland. Just rounding out our housekeeping, Eliza Amendolia, the only player out there on a yellow card, so that they do make two changes at half-time, Preston, but they don't take off the player on a yellow card as Amendolia is fouled. And we may have another one brandished here. No. Misha Westland. Olivia Bomford, I should say, flees the scene. Preston led at half-time last season 13 times. They went on to win 11 of those 13 matches in which they were in front at the break. Flicked on beautifully by Percy. Or Sandus in a bind here. Amendolia on the edge of the 18-yard box for Lamont, who was offside. And only just. They have come bounding out of the half-time team talk, Preston. They've come here pumped up tonight, keen to get a big result, go into the top four and hopefully stay there if other results go their way, but just to get a win over South Melbourne tonight and try and inject a bit of energy into this season. I think Esposito was thinking that was a goal kick. The referee is saying you've got to go and take it where the offside penalty, if you like, occurred. Here's Papatsanis. In hot pursuit is Amendolia, and she affects another turnover, Eliza. She painstakingly watches the ball go out of play. South Melbourne trailed at halftime last season 7 times. They've given the ball away. Percy, deft little touch. He's just going to run out of room. Well, this has been a pretty ordinary start to the second half for South Melbourne. Yamada receiving from Lamont in towards the near post. And the header at the near post from Percy skims past the side netting. Preston have their hands around the South Melbourne throat right now. Looks like they've shifted into a 4-1-4-1 formation with Zuho Yamada as that midfielder in between the two defensive and midfield blocks, and Percy's still alone up front. So it does look like a formation shift for Preston. Certainly started in the 4-2-3-1. And Amendolia trying to sync up with Nishimura. Amendolia. That pass eventually is going to find Percy. She leaves it for Ali Lamont, who tried to return the favour to Valentine Percy, who was not expecting it. Turned over again by South Melbourne. Lamont. Amendolia into the near post. Sandhu doesn't deal with it. Henderson fires at the near stick. Smothered by Christina Esposito. But the pressure mounts on South Melbourne, who 5 minutes, almost 6 minutes into this second half, have barely had the ball in their front half. Mami Ambo is down below us on the left wing for South Melbourne. She's going cold out here. Duralis turns it over. Percy goes from deep. She noticed Esposito off her line. Wasn't able to get that shot on target. Six goals this season for Valentine Percy. 6 in the league, that is. 7 goals in total. She did score in Preston's Nike FC Cup match that they lost a couple of weeks ago to Burundurra, so they are out of the Cup competition, Preston, after finishing runners-up last season. Eliadis wanders forward, and Eliadis is the next player to turn it over. They just cannot keep possession at the moment, South Melbourne. Eliadis has come back to slip into what looks like a back 5 at the minute for South. Byrne, Westland, and Yamano keen to try and get South into the front half. Westland. Terrific turn. That was Furukawa. She's been dazzling this evening. Receiving it back from Westland in towards Ambo, who just couldn't bring it down. They did have a 2-on-1 situation there, South. Ellie Lamont comes away with the ball. Percy, so strong in the 1-on-1. Alana Byrne was no match. Percy wins a throw-in for the Lionesses. She's been terrific tonight, Valentine Percy. And that anchor up front for Preston, and so much happens in and around her. Well, Lamont's had a big piece of Alana Byrne's shirt. We'll quickly go around the grounds. Box Hill United have beaten Brunswick Juventus 5-0. Brunswick Juventus really struggling this season. The other match that kicked off the same time as ours is locked at 1-1. Sandhu in a foot race here with Lamont. Sandhu's got to stop that one from going out from a corner kick. She did well enough to play it back out off the Preston winger. Yeah, that match out at Springside approaching the hour mark. Spring Hills 1, Heidelberg United 1. It'll be good news for South Melbourne. We're still only early in the season, of course, but Heidelberg United are one of those teams that if they were to win and South go down, Heidelberg United will go to the top of the table tonight. Francesca Iamano, Furukawa. Eve Harrington holding on for dear life. Emma Checker plays it onto the Preston badge on the roof over there. Of course, this is the first time that the women's are playing one another this season, but who could forget that incredible night earlier this season when the men's tangled. I think they said 8,500 or something like that from memory at that match. South Melbourne, as we know, in the men's having big problems. The women have started well in 2025, but just in a bit of a sticky situation here. Away from home. Having plenty of possession in the first half, maybe not so much in the second. Plenty of possession, but just struggling to create that one opportunity that Preston were able to do, and might do again as Lamont is battling with Sandhu. A good honest contest between those two. Westland back for Esposito. Henderson keeping her honest right to the bitter end. South Melbourne, Alana Byrne. Misplaced pass for Nami Ambo. They're not quite on, South Melbourne. Matthew Shepherd's side that has 3 changes from the team that disappointingly drew 1-1 with Spring Hills at Lakeside last week. It was the first time that they had dropped points this season, South. And they dropped 10 points all of last season. Oh, Amendolia and Eliadis, what a contest. And back with Lani Tadicha. Oh, I don't think Talevski really appreciated that pass coming to her. She ended up flat on her back. A throw in for South Melbourne adjacent to the 18-yard box. Eliadis just having a chat with our referee, Shab Saban, thinking that that potentially could have been a foul. Duralis to the byline. Sandhu, 2 very experienced customers. Here's Eliadis, another one. Oh, it sits here for Duralis on the outside of the boot, cleared away by the Preston defence. And Nishimura picks it up in midfield and has a bit of room to roam. Amendolia. Smothered by Alana Byrne, who goes limping back to her centre-back position. Had a good season, Alana Byrne. She joined South Melbourne this year from Bulleen, where she'd been playing the previous 4 seasons. She was a part of that Bulleen side that tasted success in the Nike FC Cup against Preston. Bad turnover from the Lionesses in midfield, but Yamada quickly regains possession. Percy flicks it on. Amendolia ghosting on the back shoulder. Twisting and turning, trying to get past Papatsanis, and eventually fires the shot into her. Lamont and Sandhu. Ali will ask for the corner, and a corner she shall receive. The first corner kick of the second half goes the way of Dan Foden's Lionesses. Obviously, if they're able to conjure a second goal here, it would be a big mountain to climb for South Melbourne. Once again, it's going to be Eliza Amendolia. A right-footed outswinger Percy with the header. Might have taken a touch from the defenders around her. Not a particularly effective clearance from Ambo. Amendolia. This time plays it into the penalty area off the left boot. Mummy Ambo heads it away and will do it all again. The pressure continues to mount. Repeat corners for Preston. Repeat corners for Eliza Amendolia. As we approach the hour mark here at Jenna Steele Stadium. Preston go in search of a second. That's a disappointing effort that time around from Amendolia. South Melbourne exhale. Get back into shape. A couple of South Melbourne's X-Factor players have been very, very quiet this evening. Mami Ambo. Haven't seen too much of this lady here, Olivia Bomford. Not in the second half, anyway. But it's only a 1-goal deficit. It's Henderson. Harrington wasn't particularly happy with that pass. South back in possession. They're starting to get a little bit more control of the football, South, as Westland's bundled over. Free kick on the far side. Furukawa. Duralis dropping into midfield. Can't link up with Bomford. Percy's picked up so many of those mistakes in midfield tonight for Preston. Well, they've only conceded multiple goals. As Alana Burns going to concede possession again. They've only conceded multiple goals in one game this season, South. That was that match 2 7-2 win over FA Academy. Here's Ali Lamont. Has gotten past Alana Byrne, who has to let her go now. Oh, she brings her down with an Aussie rules type tackle. And Alana Byrne is not happy. She's pushing Ali Lamont. It's all kicking off here at Jeddah Steel Stadium. Ali's trying to get the hell out of there. She's done her job. She's won the foul. Alana Byrne goes into the referee's little black book. And a set piece in a dangerous position here for Preston. By the way, that is Alana Byrne's 4th yellow card of the season, so she's only one away from having to have a break. Of course, 5 yellow cards in the NPLW Victoria equals an automatic 1-game suspension. So Miri Nishimura stands over the set piece for Preston. I do remember Miri scoring a wonderful, dazzling free kick during last season, which was probably a little bit further out than this particular set piece here. South Melbourne with the 3-player wall and on high alert. The players align themselves at the back post. Miri Nishimura over the ball. Stands alone over the ball for Preston. Goes for goal and it's turned over and behind quite brilliantly by Christina Esposito. One of the best saves you will see this weekend, and she's mobbed by her teammates. The ball came dipping right onto her head. She didn't have to dive left or right, but she did have to backpedal, just getting enough to turn it over and behind, and Nishimura races over to take the corner kick for Preston. They crowd Esposito and the goal line. Nishimura in towards Percy. couldn't get their header back behind her and on target. Very difficult spot to be able to score a header from. Almost on the point of the 6-yard box. South Melbourne survive. But that's all they're doing through the first quarter hour. A bit more than that in this second half. Call it 20 minutes. Have not really fired a shot offensively. When I say fire a shot, I mean literally fire a shot. Good work, though, defensively there from Byrne. And now here is Furakara, who slips away. Looks for Duralis. Good work there from Talevski to get goal side and play it away. And speaking of high alert, they have to be Preston. It's only a 1-goal lead. And they know that it only takes a moment. They have the quality in the front third, South Melbourne, to punish you. It's just a matter of whether or not they can create something. Ambo and Westland. Papatsanis. Her pass deflected off Amendolia, and now she has to turn around and win a foot race. Papatsanis. Terrific work once again by the tenacious Amendolia. Sophie Papatsanis is a 21-year-old, come up through the juniors at South Melbourne. This is her 88th appearance, senior appearance for South. She started that 2023 grand final. Amendolia and Nishimura and Henderson. And now Alana Byrne, who's quickly turning back for Esposito. South try and plot their way forward again. Haven't had too many touches in their attacking 18-yard box in their second half. Great pass there from Nishimura. Lamont, you can see what she was trying to do. Get it onto Percy. Unable to do so. Bomford's lost possession. Byrne for support. Bad turnover. Jadicha. Bomford has missed it. Amendolia. I think that was a pass designed for Valentine Percy, but just wasn't quite able to find the angle. This pressing has really caused South Melbourne problems tonight. I've mentioned that a few times. No doubt there will be a lot of teams in the NPLW Victoria having a look at how Preston are going about this tonight. The blueprint for how you beat the girls in blue. And those front 3 or 4 players, it was Vatke and Vlamink, Henderson in the first half. Percy as well. Not allowing South Melbourne to carry the ball into the middle of the pitch without being under pressure or duress. Still, that 6th goal from Ali Vlamink is what separates these two teams. As we've got a change down below us, Bridie Cooling, who has been a staple in the starting 11 this season for South Melbourne. She replaces Akeisha Sandhu. Bridie Cooling, who had started all 7 matches prior to tonight. Originally from Tasmania, but was with Box Hill United last season. So Alana Byrne looks like she's now coming out to left back. Sophie Papatsanis and Bridie Cooling in the middle of what we'll call for now is still a back 4. They did shift into a back 3 late last week, South Melbourne, when they were trying to find that second goal. Just wondering if that is maybe what they've done here. Duralis Into midfield for Bomford. His touch was heavy. Talevsky turns them away. And Ali Lamont trying to salvage that one down below. Preston are going to make another change as well shortly. Narita will be the next one to be injected into this match. Scoreline still reading Preston 1, South Melbourne 0. Duralis been barely sighted in this second half because the ball, quite frankly, has been up the other end for most of it. Good work there from Yamano to win back possession for South. Eliadis, her pass took a touch on the way through. Harrington away, but only as far as Alana Byrne. Oh, a bad moment there for Bridie Cooling, who slipped over. And it's low-hanging fruit, I suppose, but that has really been the story of the night for South Melbourne. They just have not looked in sync. They've had a couple of their individual players that have maybe flashed momentarily, and now they're in trouble. Nishimura latches onto the long ball. Is she brought down by Nishimura? By Bridie Cooling, I should say. Looked like there might have been a hand on the shirt. And Nishimura didn't really go to ground. She should have just went down on one knee. If she'd maybe put a little bit more theatrics to that one, might have made it a bit more difficult a decision for our referee to make. Judicia. Oh, that's a dangerous pass inside. Furukawa trying her best. Preston maintain possession. Yamada looking for Lamont. Yamano can roll forward. Not quite into the 18-yard box. South Melbourne have scored 10 goals in the second halves of games this season. Lamont might have copped a high boot there. Percy's also gone down. Eri Narita is warming up down below us. She's about to come on. If there's one place that you want to be, if you're a player tonight, it's out there on the pitch running around and staying warm, because it's quite cold here at Geneseo Stadium. Eliza Amendolia is coming from the pitch. She has been outstanding this evening in midfield, to be replaced by Eri Narita, who was just looking back at the coach to get one last bit of advice as to where Dan Foden wants her to line up. Out on the left wing she goes. Looks like Preston is still in there. 4-1-4-1. Certainly without the ball. They win possession back by way of a throw-in. Narita involved immediately. Lamont. And Nishimura just wasn't able to bring it down. Wouldn't have mattered. She was in an offside position. Still, they look the more threatening team offensively. Preston. Possession has probably evened up a little bit more in the second 45. Oh, Esposito just able to get it away from Percy. Eliadis takes the territory on offer. Bomford and back to Eliadis. Now Cooling. Here's Doralis on the edge of the 18-yard box, not with a lot of help. And then just misses Westland. One back by Eliadis. Yamada's header. And now Ambo. The first time strike. Didn't get enough venom behind it. Able to pick up possession again for South. Eliadis. Oh, flicked on beautifully there by Doralis, and Westland just didn't have the football sit for her. A rare moment of attack for South. And did come into this match on an 8-game unbeaten run, dating back to last season. Percy's ball now. Is Lamont on side here? No. No, she's not. She won the foot race between herself and Francesca Iamano. She turns back to the official on this near side and says, no, no, no. It's really only the offside flag that at the moment feels like is what is separating Preston and their second goal. And Valentine Percy now getting a talking to. Bottom line is South Melbourne take over. Iamano flattens Lamont again. The referee says nothing. Iamano slips it in behind for Bomford. Pulls it back into the 18-yard box. Harrington doesn't really deal with it. Doralis goes for a tumble. Furukawa ended up flat on her back. And Preston again smother a potential South Melbourne foray forward. Here is Narita now. Back for Harrington, an early release. Now Percy is onside. There's no doubt about that. Lays it back for Eri Narita, who can't get the shot on target from the edge of the 18-yard box. Preston on the counter once again. As we're into the final quarter hour of this match. Preston's early goal set them up nicely. Preston will know that this game has not been won until the final whistle blows. We've had a lot of late drama in the NPLW Victoria this season, even just last week. 2 or 3 matches we had with goals scored very late. Iamano's pass forward without much purpose. Checker, who's put the gloves on in this second half. I don't know if you're picking it up on our FX mic, but Alana Byrne is a very, very frustrated young lady down there at the moment. Frustrated with her own performance and how this night has transpired. Some South fans might have half an eye on that Heidelberg United match at Springside, which is still 1-1. Both of those goals scored in the first half. 2 goals scored 6 minutes, within 6 minutes of one another, I should say. Earlier tonight it was Box Hill United beating Brunswick Juventus, killing Brunswick Juventus 5-0. Throw in for Preston. Byrne, the frustrated one. Long ball looking for Furukawa. Did well enough. Chesting it down. Doralis trying to come crashing through with the football. She's taken herself a long way away from goal. And Talevski and Narita and South effectively calls a turnover by way of a throw-in. Narita, terrific. Slips away. Percy can't quite find her with the return pass. They've looked very good with those little interplay passes in the front third. Preston, they've got a lot of players that are playing together this year for the first time. Percy's obviously a new player, as is Eri Narita. Oh, swing and a miss from Jadicha. And is that the kind of moment that can swing the door open for South Melbourne? Marmy Ambo with possession. Shoots from distance. Sophie Dean does well to get her body behind the ball. They're just the little errors that you cannot afford to make against a team with the quality of South Melbourne. sounding like a broken record, but for as well as Preston has played tonight, I'm sure the coaches would have told them all week it's going to be as much a mental test as anything, staying switched on and alert and active until the final minute. And there might be some sense of frustration amongst the Preston coaches and players out there that this is only a 1-goal lead. They've come devilishly close to scoring on a couple of occasions. Iamano still going here, bowled over. Ellie Lamont eventually plays the ball out of touch. We're going to have a change each way down below us in just a moment. In fact, right now, as Raquel Doralis is going to make way for South Melbourne. She'll be replaced by Gia Capsamalis, a 16-year-old who has scored 7 goals in 6 games in the under-20 so far this year. And for Preston, Valentine Percy, who has been very good up front for Preston tonight. No goals for her. She won't add to her tally. She's replaced by Summer Kapanekia. So Capsamalis comes off the bench for the 5th time this season. She wasn't in the squad last week. Hasn't scored a senior goal yet. Has been scoring in droves, as I mentioned, in the under-20s. Can she find an equaliser for South Melbourne? It's gone behind for a corner kick. South Melbourne's first corner kick of the second half. Olivia Bomford comes over to take. I think that's Talevsky, who's a little bit slow to peel herself up off the turf here at Jenna Steele Stadium. Nishimura manning the near post. Bomford's right-footed in-swinger. Is this the moment for South Melbourne? It's not quite cleared away, not initially anyway, and then pumped forward. All the way back for Esposito, who's about 40 yards out of her own goal. And she's turned possession over. Kapanekia. Good work from Papatsanis. Iamano fired her pass off the back heel of Bomford. Now it's back with Narita. This game will become stretched in the final 10 minutes. Narita goes tumbling down. A little look back at the referee. Nishimura. Ball through for Summer Kapanekia. Out comes Esposito expertly. She's had a couple of wonderful moments in this match between the posts. You'll remember that header from Valentine Percy that she tipped over in the early minutes of this second half. Well, Hannah Byrne, a timely interception there. She has not been afraid to release the early pass tonight. Eliadis trying to loft it over for Furukawa. Ends up on the floor, but it's behind and a goal kick. Kapanekia a moment ago bearing down on goal. Esposito, if she had hesitated for even a millisecond longer, it's all but certain that this game would have been 2-0. Header from Furukawa, nobody able to latch on to the end of it other than Sophie Dean. Looking for her first clean sheet of the season, Sophie Dean. They did get a clean sheet earlier this year when they beat Alamein. That was Maggie Byrne in goal that afternoon. Sorry, that was against Essendon rather, not Alamein. Kapanekia. Turnover. Byrne. Iamano. Still South Melbourne. Poke and prod. really haven't been able to create a good opportunity this evening. Here's Furukawa trying to hit it on the volley. Just got it wrong and ended up, I don't think she made any contact at all. But a throw in. As the smell from the canteen on the far side just makes its way over to the commentary position. Enticing commentator and cameraman. Kapsamalis runs out of room. And another disappointing end to an adventure forward for South. A big 3 points starting to come into view for Preston. They took the lead in the 6th minute. They have led for the best part of 80 minutes against the early season frontrunners South Melbourne, who have been a little bit off colour tonight. As I mentioned earlier, this is not an easy ground to come and win. Preston won 7 of their 11 matches here last season in the regular season. Are they on their way to one of their biggest wins in a while? Certainly their biggest win of this season. South Melbourne pump the long ball forward. Ambo, Westland, Furukawa. Closed down quickly and dispossessed by Harrington. That's a rare win for the Preston left back. South back in possession. Aliadis swings it out wide for Bomford. Goes with Nishimura. Bomford ends up on the floor. No foul. Yamada. And rolling forward is Summer Kapanekia. Deflected by Alana Byrne. Oh, that was a lazy pass from Westland. As was that ball forward by Preston. South back in control of the football. Still chasing this game. They've trailed for longer tonight than they had all season coming into this match. Coming back from an offside position is Ellie Lamont. Again, she looks perplexed. Preston have the grand final rematch coming up away to Heidelberg United next Saturday at Olympic Village. And they then have a bunch of home games, 3 consecutive home games after that trip to the village. 3 consecutive home games against the struggling Brunswick Juventus. Box Hill and Alana Burner miss that with the goalkeeper. Esposito again just able to save face for South Melbourne. Yeah, Brunswick Juventus, Box Hill, and then Spring Hills for Preston here at Genis Steel Stadium. Westland. Papatsanis, I should say. Misses Alana Byrne. Another terrible giveaway from South. Kapanekia waltzes right past Byrne, who's on a yellow card, so she's got to let her go. Narita is in the box. Kapanekia is going to the touchline and eventually earns a throw in for Preston. To the delight of the fans that are sitting in the grandstand on the far side. I'll give you South Melbourne's next few matches in just a moment. Let's give them to you now. They're at home at Lakeside next Sunday afternoon to play Bulleen. So a big turnaround, a big break, I should say, Friday night to Sunday. And then they go away to the Cross Keys to play the Royals, Essendon Royals. And they're back at home after that to play Burundurra before they have their Nike FC Cup clash with Avondale, which will be a very interesting match. They might need to have a ball up here. No, it's going, I believe it's going South's way. I think Yamada's going to go into the book here for time wasting. Indeed she does. Her first booking of the season. Long ball forward for Ambo. Almost a little bit too tall for her. In fact, it was out of play. Another frustrating moment for South. Yeah, for those that aren't aware, Avondale, their women's side, are in the Victorian Premier League Women's this season. That's the second division, and they are currently on top of that second tier, and they are playing beautiful football. And they, for all money, look like they'll be joining us in the NPLW Victoria next season, so that will not be an easy match for South Melbourne. That is away in the Nike FC Cup. They were eliminated early on in the Cup last year, South. They've got 3 league matches before that away clash to Avondale. They've got to try and orchestrate something here. Still just a 1-0 lead for Preston as Ambo gets tangled up with Jadicha and is fouled. The South Melbourne are going to go back to the bench. And this will be their final substitution. This is their third substitution in which they are allowed. We're going to see Alana Filipovic. Are they going to wait for this set piece? We go into 3 minutes of stoppage time. South Melbourne go in search of an equaliser. They would have liked to have seen more than 3 minutes up on the board. I think we know what these last 3 minutes are going to look like. One team is going to be playing with a lot of urgency, and the other team not so much. Naomi Ambo, she's broken Preston hearts before. Could she do it again tonight? Eliadis trying to lay it off for Bomford, who chases in vain only. And Alana Filipovic will now come on to replace Olivia Bomford, who has had better nights at the office, Liv. I think you could say that about a lot of South players. This is a result that's going to make things tight at the top. Preston, if they win, will go to 14 points. They will pull to within 3 of South Melbourne. Around the grounds, I can tell you that Heidelberg United have drawn 1-1 with Spring Hills. So Heidelberg United draw level with South Melbourne on 17 points, but they won't go to the top. South with a much better goal difference as Iamano wins a late corner kick for South Melbourne. Alamein are watching on. They're going to battle tomorrow afternoon. They're at the Veneto Club to play Burundara, so potentially could go to the top with a win there. A late chance for South Melbourne. We're in the second of 3 stoppage time minutes. Short for Iamano. Doesn't get past Jadicha. Harrington trying to clear it to safety. Papatsanis. Iamano. Again Papatsanis, and then it's fallen for Furukawa, who is brought down in the 18-yard box. And it's a penalty. It's a penalty for South Melbourne after a very lengthy delay. I think our official, Shab Saban, had a look over at the sideline official just to get a second opinion, I think. And then after what felt like an age, Saban pointed to the spot. And South Melbourne will be thrown a lifeline. In the final minute of our third stoppage time minute that we were promised. And up steps Mami Ambo to secure a point for South Melbourne. They have trailed for the entirety of the match. It's Mami Ambo. It's 1-1. And Mami Ambo returns to break Preston hearts again. You wouldn't believe it. just about the final kick of the night. South Melbourne have their goal, and Marmy Ambo, who has barely been sighted in this second half, scores a stoppage time goal against Preston. Stop me if you've heard that before. Preston 1, South Melbourne 1. And now we are at the mercy of our official as to how much time we have added on to the time added on. Furukawa was the one that won the penalty. Remember, South Melbourne missed a penalty late last week that would have won the game. They score a penalty in the 93rd minute to steal a point at Genesis Steel Stadium. The apparition of Marmy Ambo appears before Preston again to deny them again. It won't hurt as much as it did last September, but it will hurt all the same. And still, South Melbourne remain undefeated this season. Ali Vlamic scored after just 6 minutes to give Preston the lead. And from there on, South Melbourne were chasing the game, and it took them until effectively the final kick of the match to find an equaliser, a game in which they really didn't offer up much attacking prowess whatsoever. But Marmy Ambo, for the second straight match against Preston, scores a stoppage time goal, and South Melbourne will take that point and they will run right back to Lakeside. So some more late drama in the NPLW Victoria. My name's Brent Sternberg. Thanks to our cameraman, Sam, as well. In the end, a match that promised a lot, maybe didn't quite reach any real heights. And South Melbourne will feel like that one was as good as a victory, and Preston drop a couple more points. Their 6th and 7th points that they have dropped this season. That's where we'll leave you, everybody. You can watch the rest of the games tomorrow in the NPLW Victoria on the NPL Victoria YouTube channel. We'll bid you farewell this evening from Genesis Steel Stadium, where the final score was Preston 1, South Melbourne 1.